In recent news, there's been a lot of discourse around the term woke and what its influence has been on the gaming sphere. Today I'd like to talk about why this discourse exists and what I think of it. Hello and welcome, fellow virgins. It is I, Super Virgin here, and today I'd like to talk about how gaming may or may not have become woke. First and foremost, I think it's important that we understand the term woke and what it entails when we talk about it. I think a lot of us might expect that this is a more recent term or something that's, been used more recently, but you'd be surprised to learn that the term actually comes from the 1930s, where it was used by Black Americans to sort of tell each other and keep each other aware and woke about structural racism that was in the system back then. But even with that being the case, that's like almost 100 years ago. So of course the term has changed, the definition has changed throughout those years, same as society and whatnot has changed. So what does it mean now? Well, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, it means being alert about social discrimination and injustice. Urban Dictionary there claims that it is being aware of what is happening in society related to racism and social injustice. That doesn't seem so bad when we look at the term, when we look at the definition. I don't think anyone can really go, that's really, really bad. I think the majority of people agree that being aware of what is racist and what is not isn't inherently a bad thing. But of course, the more recent way it's being used is in American politics. And that's where it kind of becomes a negative buzzword, saying you're too liberal or you're too progressive or whatnot. Now, I don't want to go into politics right now. I'm not really in the mood to do that. And plus, this is a gaming related channel. So we'll just put that to the side. I think that shouldn't influence mainstream media, mainstream gaming. Is that wrong to think that politics shouldn't influence that? Well, that's where the problem actually already lies. If no one's actually looking at the definition of the term or looking at what this actually means to them, and rather they just look at the negative buzzword that the politic has given them, then of course they're going to give a bit of an uproar. They're going to say, oh, I want it to be woke, or I don't want it to be woke because I'm against that, or because politics, or there's going to be a lot of influence in there. To say it in a short sentence, no, I do not think that gaming has become woke or ever will become woke, but I also don't think it needs to be. See, I believe here in the gaming sphere that we already have a lot of representation. There's tons and tons of iconic characters from all races and sexes, and that list will only grow and keep growing throughout the years. Let's take a look at CJ from San Andreas. That's like a really good one. We have Sadie Adler from Red Dead Redemption 2, the cast of the last two Mortal Kombat games. Hell, we have a lot of different iconic characters when it comes to that, and they're all from all races and sexes alike. I think I could make a really big list if I wanted to of like characters from the last 10 years. And then on top of that, you also have the fact that in a lot of games nowadays, you get to create your own character. So it's more in your hands to be like, hey, if you want to make a character that looks like this, go for it. Just do it yourself. Make what you want to make. I get a feeling like there's also a lot of backlash nowadays on how certain female characters are ugly in video games nowadays, and how people believe that developers and whatnot want to make them ugly because making them look like models would be a bad thing. Let's be honest here and understand that that is absolutely wrong. There is nothing right about that. If you tell me, oh, I'm mad because the character from one game I played now in the new game looks so much different, and it's just not nice to just have this different character, I can understand that to a certain extent. But just because a certain female character in a video game is not attractive to you, it's kind of weird that people whine about this. It's also, of course, always about female characters. I barely hear in this uproar, in this discourse, I never hear them talking about ugly male characters. Maybe that's because they don't really look at that, or maybe it's just because it's a lot of men just talking about this. How long have we had ugly characters and pretty characters in games, both female and male? And let me ask the people that do believe this, what games exactly have so many or such important characters that are ugly in recent games? Even where are they? When I go looking for examples, I find 3 that are the most common. So we have Gwen from Spider-Man 2, I think. She goes from Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2. She looks completely different. A lot of people found this weird. Now, I understand, again, that if you find this weird because she just looks different and it's just like, what? How is this the same person? Sure. But if you're just going, oh, wow, they made her ugly, and then you're going to cry about that, honestly, I don't even understand. Then there's the Fable remake trailer that a lot of people are crying about how that character looks. And then you also, of course, have Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West. Now, in a game like Fable, and let's take another example, the Saints Row reboot, for instance, they indeed make these trailers with characters that aren't like straight up models or don't look extremely attractive, but these are games that are known for making custom characters. So basically, 2 proper examples we have is Aloy and Gwen from Spider-Man. If you can find me more, sure thing. I don't understand how you can say that, again, like Sadie Adler from Red Dead Redemption 2 looks bad, or how, let's look at the cast of Baldur's Gate 3, which was Game of the Year last year. Like, you're gonna tell me those characters all look absolutely disgusting? No, there are pretty characters, there are ugly characters. That's just how it works. Now, the only reason why in these trailers you would see less attractive people than, you know, a supermodel, it's just because these companies want to like act like they care about appealing to the more, I guess, average looking people. I don't know what exactly it is, but maybe somewhere in their target demographic they think, okay, yeah, sure, if we make average looking characters, it's gonna sit more well than just making models. I don't really understand that. But let's then address the elephant in the room here. I am, of course, talking about Sweet Baby Inc. It's gotten in a lot of controversy recently, the people that have gotten in there. I won't waste too much time on Sweet Baby Inc. and talking about that. I think there's more than enough coverage on that story, but it's pretty logical that people having a certain influence on mainstream gaming, saying stuff like, you can be racist to white people, yeah, that's a fucking issue. That's definitely a very big issue. We need to take care of making sure that people like that don't get into a position of power. And I think where these companies make the mistake is trying to diversify their actual like games and not tackling the real problem here, which is mostly the communities. I think a lot of times when you make a character, you should make the character just well structured. You should make a good character, and then later you can look at what race or sex they have. It won't influence a love interest. It might influence small parts of a game depending on what game you're making, but honestly, for the most part, you could make a character, like name any iconic character, and they could be a different race or a different sex, and it would still be a good character. Then that's a well-written character, and you can diversify and not make it look too forced. But the problem with this is that they're actually forcing this upon us, and that is what a lot of people also hate, I think. To go back on communities, it's no mystery that there are racists or sexists out there, and in the community itself. I talked about this in my Why I Hate Modern Gaming video, and I think we just like need to try to be more inclusive in the community. I think these companies that work on diversity should actually work more on that, or to try and like make these racist and sexist beliefs not really get put out there in a sphere, like a gaming sphere, where, you know, we're trying to relax here, we're trying to have fun. Of course, when we look at this and when we look at the media and when we look at what news is being talked about, it's always the extreme. So instead of, you know, one side being angry at the other side, maybe we should just look at each other and, you know, understand that we're all trying to create what's best here for the gaming sphere. I think either side of the argument just wants the same thing, which is what is the most fun for everyone involved in this. And so the extremes get talked about on the news. But then, of course, anyone else from the other side of the argument is going to look at that and be like, oh, so this is the other side of the argument talking about. And yeah, that creates quite a false view of the situation. And of course, people are going to be a bit more upset. On one hand, you do have indeed this extreme where you have like discrimination, where they like out their bad beliefs. just like at the first sight of like seeing a female or a black character in a video game, they go crazy, they go wild about it, acting like it's a bad thing. And then you have a company like Sweet Baby Inc. that believes diversity is more important than actually creating a good story, which is then of course also quite a big fucking problem. Like I said before, if you write a character, they could be any race, any sex, or depending on the game, even any species, then you're always gonna have like this core stepping stone to delivering a good story with good characters, and those characters then drive that story forward. That's how it should be. In all honesty though, I do think we shouldn't be worried. If we notice force changes, it's always going to be put out there and people are always gonna be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? They're gonna point it out. These companies, like I said, they're trying to act like they care about minorities, like they do on Pride Month. They changed their profile to a rainbow thing. These companies do not give a fuck about us, okay? That doesn't mean that the people behind it don't always do, right? The development team might actually do care. But again, these big publishing companies, these companies making the trailers and whatnot, they do not care about you and me. They just care about the money that we deliver. And so to them, doing this and acting like they care about diversity, well, that's to them more money. So like I said, it gets like out there and it gets a lot of backlash when it's really forced. It's why I think a lot of people do not like Marvel anymore as well. I don't think I have to tell anyone about that forced endgame scene with all the women there. A good example is the ending of season 2 of The Boys. That's where it's like done really well because yes, you have representation, but it doesn't feel forced and those characters could be changed from race or from sex and it would still be a good scene. I also do think that despite the fact that this is really forced, a lot of people working on trying to create diversity and whatnot aren't doing this with like a bad interest. They're trying to do this and trying to be helpful and trying to do what's best in their eyes. So if there's one thing you should remember from this video, it's that a majority of the people on the other side of the argument that you're on actually do just want what's best. And so maybe looking at more timid or normal views can help you understand the other perspective that people might have. But what do you think? Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you believe that gaming is becoming woke, or hell, if it's already woke, and that we should be afraid that the changes that it's going to bring? Let me know in the comments, and if you've made it this far, why not leave a like and subscribe, because it really does help me as a small channel and shows the algorithm that people like my video. As always, I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.